thanks for joining us. I'm NBC5 meteorologist Kevin Jeans.
And I'm Telemundo meteorologist Maricela Vasquez.
Well, we're joining you now to talk about the upcoming solar eclipse that's happening Monday, April 8th.
We're going to tell you everything you need to know about this great event in English and also in Spanish.
Yeah, we're going to have it in English and Spanish, and this is a huge deal, Maricela, because we've been talking about this for not just months, but for years.
Yeah, and we're preparing for a long time ago for this great event, and we're so excited. Last time we saw it here in Chicago was 2017.
And that was a partial solar eclipse. We've got so much detail and you know, facts to tell you about too, but this is something that's just not going to happen for a long time too. So hopefully everybody's getting ready. I know hotels have been getting booked up for a long time along this path.
And I'm going to let you explain in English, and I'm going to come back and explain in Spanish.
And we'll send it right back over to you. So, okay, here we go. This is the breakdown, the overall picture here, the big picture of this total solar eclipse. This is going to happen Monday afternoon, April 8th. So the shadow of the moon, as the moon passes between Earth and the sun, the shadow of totality is going to move across southwest Texas and move to the northeast. This is going to be happening, again, Monday afternoon. So it's going to start right around 1 p.m. Central Time, and it's not going to end until about 3:30 Central Time. So for us, that's right through the heart of the afternoon. But this path of totality, this area where these people in this view, or this orange shade here, will be able to actually take off the solar eclipse glasses for just a few minutes. That only lasts about 3 to 4 minutes in these areas, even though the eclipse overall, as it takes a long time for the moon to cross in front of the disk of the sun and then to cross it completely and exit again, that takes a few hours, but it's only a few minutes that they'll actually be able to see the path of totality. And the shadow is going to start out slow. It's going to move slower across Texas, up through Arkansas, southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois, but then it's going to pick up some forward speed, and the duration of the totality won't be quite as long across Ohio and over Lake Erie and across upstate New York, and then as that keeps moving to the northeast. But this is a closer view of where you would need to get to if you want to be within the path of totality. So really, Indianapolis is a great spot. Even just southeast of Indianapolis would be, I think, a little better of a spot, because the duration of the total solar eclipse will be just a little bit longer. But you have to at least get past south of Kokomo, well past Lafayette too. So best to at least get to Indianapolis, if not just south of Indianapolis, coming from Chicago. Now that's the path of totality. So that's where, again, you'll be able to take off the solar eclipse glasses. But everywhere else across the lower 48 states are still going to get some sort of view of this solar eclipse, but it's not going to necessarily be the total eclipse. It's a partial solar eclipse, meaning you have to keep the glasses on throughout the duration, because the moon will not completely cover the sun's disk. So everywhere in the lower 48 getting a glimpse of this. I mentioned the length or the duration of totality. It's going to be greater across Texas, as the shadow is going to move a little slower, about 4.5 minutes over South Texas of totality. By the time it gets to southern Illinois, and Carbondale is another great spot driving downstate, over 4 minutes of totality expected there. That's a lot longer than the eclipse that happened in 2017. So not only is it a little bit closer to us and easier drive, but I think the reward is greater, because the duration of this one is much longer than what we had in 2017. And we're not going to get another one like this for a long time. We're talking even just anywhere in the U.S. to get a solar eclipse like this isn't going to happen until 2045. And it's much later than that to actually get a total solar eclipse in Chicago. So these are relatively rare. There are solar eclipses that happen every year, but they're really for a really small area. And so we're fortunate that this one's going right across North America, and this is going to be a big event that we're going to be talking about for years to come. Maricela, I'll send it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. And I remember the 2017. After I explain this in Spanish, I'm going to show you a picture. We were outside of NBC Tower covering and looking at it, always wearing our glasses for protection. But as you mentioned it, el eclipse solar va a comenzar sobre partes del norte de México, en Torreón. Y es ahí precisamente donde se va a ver el sol oscurecer, donde se va a ver el eclipse total. Y vemos, esa es la trayectoria. Also, I have it in English. If you just joining us, you can see it. Follow with me as I speak in Spanish. You might learn a couple of Spanish words. Podemos ver, en Houston va a pasar muy cerca. Vemos sobre partes de Texas es donde va a ser la mayor duración. Y va a comenzar a las 12:52 del mediodía es cuando va a comenzar a ser parcial y eventualmente, y eso de las 2:12 es cuando va a alcanzar ya la máxima. Hacia partes de Carbondale, muy interesante en Carbondale, porque en 7 años es el lugar donde nuevamente va a estar en la trayectoria del eclipse. Esto no es normal. Para que un eclipse llegue a suceder cerca de su casa, de su hogar, es aproximadamente cada 375 días. Carbondale, estamos hablando que ha sido una diferencia de tan solo 7 años. Así es que si usted quiere ver el cielo oscurecerse totalmente, Carbondale podría ser una buena opción, y también hacia partes de Indianápolis. Vemos que ya para las 3:23 comenzará a terminar el eclipse solar. Ahora, si no puede viajar, pero quiere verlo en la zona de Chicago, así es como se va a ver. Va a ser un eclipse parcial, no se va a oscurecer mucho. Vamos a ver aproximadamente el 90% del eclipse, así es que estamos muy emocionados. Y le hablaba que ya para eso de las 3:23 comenzará a oscurecer, y esa es la trayectoria. También le mencionaba sobre hace aproximadamente 7 años. Estábamos afuera de la torre NBC. Aquí me pueden ver con mi hijo Angelo, que en aquel entonces tenía 10 años, y hacia atrás podemos ver nuestro productor Joey Miller y también Alicia Roman. Kevin, I'm just explaining this picture. We took this picture in 2017. We were all excited to see this 2017 partial eclipse here in Chicago. You could see, I was explaining, this is my son Angelo. Back then he was just 10 years old, now he's almost 17. And we can see our weather producer Brent Miller working with that box that you were mentioning. That would be another option to see the solar eclipse. And back behind, you can see Alicia Roman, so excited because it was a great experience. We really enjoyed it, and that's all we want to tell you all about it. So just enjoy this astronomical phenomenon. It's really great, and if you can travel to Indianapolis or Southern Illinois, will be a great experience. They say people cry when they see it, the sun covered and you see darkness. Even temperatures can drop a couple degrees, Kevin.
It's really rare, and then nothing puts time into perspective whenever you see a picture of your child, your son, or your daughter. You're like, man, that was 7 years ago. All right, well, coming up next, we're going to answer some of your questions about the upcoming solar eclipse, including the best places to watch and what it's going to look like here in Chicago. We're going to closer look at our local times, plus everything you need to know about solar eclipse glasses. Welcome back to our special coverage, looking forward to the total solar eclipse that's coming up Monday, April 8th.
And we're so excited about it. Now, let's take some questions ask some questions or take some questions about people. You know, they want to hear all about it. The first question from you guys where's the best place to see the total solar eclipse?
And really, this is a little subjective because first off, we're going to go with the closest areas, and that's Indianapolis, Carbondale, Southern Illinois. You go to Central and Southern Indiana, just because it's closest to us. But here's the thing, Maricela, I think also you need to be ready to pivot in case we have a cloudy day. You know, if we get some clouds coming, that could just ruin this entire thing. So it seems like, yeah, the quicker spots.
The challenge that we're going to have.
Yeah, but you could argue because the duration of the total solar eclipse is a little longer farther south in areas like Texas and Arkansas, but
so the best place, yes, and I'm going to do the question. I was so excited when I started, like, okay, I kind of thought about. One of the question was, ¿en dónde se va a poder ver el eclipse solar? ¿Cuál es el mejor lugar? Y es precisamente que hablábamos Indianapolis o hacia el sur del estado de Illinois, Carbondale. Can you believe Carbondale's been getting a total solar eclipse in less than 7 years? When we talk about an average to see it outside of your house or where you live is 375 years. So Carbondale's lucky.
They get twice
in 7 years.
Yes,
in 7 years.
Yeah.
Best place to see it.
Well, we're going to go on to the next question here, and this question is, what does the path of totality mean? Well, this one, so the path of totality, that is where the disk of the moon covers the entire disk of the sun. So totality, the path of totality is where there will actually be a total solar eclipse. And so that is those areas only. You're going to be able to take off the solar eclipse glasses for about that 3 to 4 minute window. It's not very long, but you're going to be able to take those off. And anywhere outside of that, so including Chicago, if it's a partial solar eclipse, even if it's 99.9% covered of an eclipse, you still have to keep the solar eclipse glasses on because you can cause some serious damage to the eyes. So
you don't want that, yeah. So you want to
that.
protect it all the time, and you know, Chicago is just going to be partial, like 90%. So you want to have those glasses, especially with the kids. You have to be very careful. They're going to be so excited just to see it. So you have to make sure they keep those glasses.
Right.
So now I'm going to say the questions in Spanish. ¿Qué es la trayectoria del eclipse total solar? Es solamente en la zona donde se va a ver oscurecer. Y esos lentes siempre los tienen que tener puestos porque puede ser bastante peligroso. Solamente en la zona donde se va a oscurecer totalmente es donde se lo puede quitar por un breve periodo. Pero le aconsejamos mantener esos lentes puestos. Now, going to the next question, Kevin. The next one is, what will it look like from here in Chicago? How are we going to...
And you kind of showed it in your graphic too, which was great. So 12:51 p.m., that's the start time for us in Chicago. So that's when it's just going to start to kind of hit the sliver of the lower right corner of the disk of the sun. And then it's going to peak at 2:07. So think about 1 p.m., 2 p.m., and then 3:22 is when it comes to an end. But we get the maximum eclipse basically right around 2 p.m. to 2:15 p.m. So I'm thinking, you know, a lot of kids in school too. Everybody's going to be out and trying to get a glimpse of this thing. So it's really the perfect timing. Sometimes these lunar eclipses are cool and they're great, but they happen at 2 a.m. And so, you know, it's like everybody's still sleeping. But this is right through the middle of the day. The skies are going to get dark, and this is just going to be really cool to see. So 12:51 p.m., 2:07 is the peak, and then 3:22 p.m. is when it's going to wrap up here in Chicago, and almost the whole disk is going to be covered, but it's not going to be the total eclipse, but it's going to be really, really close.
They say like about 94%, so we might see a little bit of the sky getting a little bit dark.
Yeah.
And not totally like in in Illinois and Carbondale, but we will see a little bit of something. So
it's going to look weird.
It's going to, yes.
For sure, it'll look weird, but it's exciting.
Yeah, I remember watching and seeing it from outside NBC in 2017, and you could see it was really great. I don't remember, it's been 7 years, right? I don't remember exactly how dark it got, but you could get a little bit like maybe dusk or maybe sunrise. You could see a little bit.
But you know what's really cool too? Like, just the shadows of the trees, the shadows change because you just have a sliver of the sun, the sunlight that's beaming down towards Earth. And so even if you don't have a pair of solar eclipse glasses, when you're walking around, the shadows look strange because everything's just a little crescent. So the shadows on buildings, on the sidewalk, through the trees, all that just looks really, really strange. Even if you don't have solar eclipse glasses, it's just something really cool.
You also mentioned a box because I remember Brent Miller talking back then in 2017, and he actually built this box where you can see it if you don't have those glasses because they have to be specific glasses. You cannot wear any kind of glasses, not even solar glasses, because you can damage, like you say, your eyes.
And that's if you look up a pinhole camera, you can just take a box, like a shoebox works great. You cut out a square, cover that with aluminum foil, and then just take a pen or something and poke a little hole, or a pin, poke a little hole into it, and then you have to cut out another hole so you can look into the box, and you'll see it basically projected, that shadow that's projected inside the box, which is something kind of cool. That's perfect for teachers too, and for
they can do it. And that was, you just answered our next question, and that it says, is there any way to view the eclipse without any glasses, covered glasses?
Oops.
So we already answered that question.
That's one way to do it.
That's one way to do it.
And we mentioned the shadows on the ground. That's going to look different. But yeah, the pinhole box. That's because everybody's got boxes laying around. Grab an Amazon box, something. Great for the kids too, because you can get a really, really big box or just a small one to be able to see either a little small projection of it, or if you get a big enough box, kind of you put it over the top of your head and you'll still be able to see the projection.
And that's a great project. Kids love project. I don't know about your kids. My youngest one, not the teenager, but the youngest one really loves to build stuff and everything. And it could be like a home project so they can be ready and prepared, involved so they can get so excited. Nowadays that we have the technology, I remember, and I'm going to share briefly this story, my grandmother, that she will be alive, she would be 105 years old, but she told me when she was 3, back, that's more than 100 years ago, she was born in a small town, and she remembers she was just walking, and suddenly in her town in Mexico, it got dark. And she just remembered people running, crying. They thought that it was the end of the world. She didn't know what was going on, and she was so smart, my grandmother, that she did some research, and suddenly she told me that was a total solar eclipse. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And I remember she was so excited to share that story with us, and now with technology, now we know what exactly is going on.
Isn't it amazing? We know to the second, and same with, everything astronomical, really. We just know when exactly the eclipses are going to happen. We know decades, centuries out when the next ones are coming. And that's how we know how rare this one is, because I mentioned 2045 is the next year that we'll see it anywhere in North America, but in Chicago, to get a total solar eclipse, it's even more rare, and that's not what we're looking at now. It's still a partial eclipse technically in Chicago, but it's really rare. And think how many thousands of years ago people going through seeing solar eclipses, and yeah, you don't know what exactly is
I was doing some
on.
research, and they say in Chicago, in the city of Chicago, the last time they saw a total solar eclipse was 1806, 30 years before Chicago was founded. So we're talking of a long time, and the next one to see it in the city of Chicago, I don't think we're going to be alive, Kevin, will be in 2099, exactly September 14, 2099. Maybe our kids, maybe your kids,
75 years from now, yeah.
75 years. How old are your kids?
Yeah, they're 5 and 2.
Oh, they might be. They can say it. My daddy was covering back then.
Right. Here we are.
Starting it with their great-grandkids.
I know.
Yes.
Well, we have another great question, too. This one is, how do you know how long you can stare at the total solar eclipse before you need your glasses back on? So we're talking all about wearing solar eclipse glasses. Obviously, during any partial solar eclipse, you've got to keep them on there the whole time. But if you are under the path of totality, it only happens for a few minutes. So you take your solar eclipse glasses, you have them on. What you see is a bright, it's called a diamond ring. You'll see a little flash of light. And again, this is also a recap of what it's going to look like from Chicago. So I said 207 is the peak. This is roughly what it's going to look like from Chicago. So this is the partial, so you'll still see that sliver there. And then that one ends at about 320. But the diamond ring, it's just a little bright light that you're going to see on the outer edge of this. That usually happens about 10 seconds before it goes into totality. So if you have your glasses on, which I forgot, I've got my pair ready to go. So you've got your glasses on, you'll see a little, like a big beam of light in the corner of the disk of the sun. And then about 10 seconds, once that disappears, you can take your glasses off. And then once you'll see that bright light again, you have about 10 seconds or so to get the glasses back on. So you'll see that bright, it looks like an engagement ring, like a wedding ring. So they call it a diamond ring. It just looks like a big bright light you'll see around the disk of the sun. So that's how you know. But it's 3 to 4 minutes. That's all we have.
And you always have to protect those eyes. And talk about safety glasses. The best way to know which ones are the best ones to use or buy, it's the American Astronomical Society. There you can find.
And so when you take them too, on the inside flap, you'll be able to see it'll have all the fine print there. And so usually it'll say ISO 12312-2 if it has been approved to that standard, and that's what I have here.
There you go.
12312-2. Then that means that it's certified and it's okay. So you can't just use regular sunglasses. You can't just put 3 sunglasses on over you just because it makes the light dimmer, because you have ultraviolet rays, you have infrared rays, and that's what really can damage your retinas. And it can also cause permanent damage too. So
we want to be very careful. I'm going to briefly explain it in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking viewers. ¿Cuánto tiempo podré ver el eclipse solar sin los lentes? La recomendación, si va a estar aquí en Chicago, se recomienda siempre tener esos lentes. Lo puede ver por pequeños segundos cuando se ve solamente una pequeña línea de los rayos del sol. Y como decía mi compañero Kevin, la forma de ver cuáles son los lentes apropiados puede ir a la Sociedad Astronómica de América y ahí puede decirle exactamente dónde están, y esos son los requerimientos. Ese es el número para que lo vea cuando usted lo compre. Just explaining to Spanish viewers exactly what kind of glasses they have to buy. Just to be careful, because our eyes are very important. You don't want to damage those eyes.
Even for, you don't want just a couple of seconds, you don't want that. And especially whenever you get all the kids out there, you want to make sure that they're staying safe and that you have these glasses. The question often gets brought up about welders' goggles or a welding mask too. So most of those are shades 12 or under, and those are no good, but shades 12 to 15, that is okay. but that's typically more rare. So don't just, if you're a welder, don't just go pick one up and assume that it's going to be fine, because it has to be at least a much higher shade, 13, 14 at least. But the best bet you can do is just make sure you have your pair of solar eclipse glasses. They cost a couple of dollars, right?
Yeah, and now they're saying if you have your glasses from 2017, you can use them, but they have to be in very good conditions. If they have a hole or they're damaged, you cannot use them because they're not going to protect you. So the best thing is to get a new one. And if you were so excited and you took very good care of your glasses back in 2017, I don't know what happened to mine. I was so excited.
The only reason I have this is because I was actually in Arizona last fall. I caught the annual solar eclipse in Arizona last fall. So these ones are only a few months old. Yes. But we're not done yet. We have more of your eclipse questions that we're going to answer right after the break.
We are back, Kevin. We have so many questions that our viewers want answers. So excited about this total solar eclipse that it's going to happen April 8th. And one of those questions is that when will be this rare phenomenon? It's a rare phenomenon, and the last time we was visible in Chicago was 1806, more than 3 decades before Chicago was founded.
A long time ago. So when are we going to see another solar eclipse in Chicago? You've hinted at this earlier.
September 14, 2099.
Marking my calendars now. Siri set a reminder. 75 years from now, and that's going to be a total solar eclipse in Chicago too. So that one is even going to be more special for us in Chicago because we don't have to go anywhere.
I know. I don't think I'm going to be alive, but maybe my great grandkids will be able to.
Modern science will be there.
Exactly. They can show it. They can say, my great grandmother used to cover it. I remember, according to my dad. But briefly, I'm going to answer that question in Spanish. Una de las preguntas es, ¿cuándo se verá otro eclipse solar total aquí en Chicago? La última vez que se vio fue en 1806. 30 años antes de que la ciudad de Chicago fuera fundada. Así es que la próxima vez que se va a ver aquí en Chicago no va a ser hasta septiembre 14 del 2099.
So 75 years from now, but we still have a great viewing. So I know all this talk is like you have to go to Indianapolis. You have to get to the path of totality. Even if you don't get there, I mean, the view that we're going to get around Chicago is still going to be spectacular. And, you know, the other question that we answered earlier, too, was how frequent are solar eclipses? And you get about 2 a year, but they're in really remote areas, and sometimes they're just over the ocean where nobody's really seeing it.
And they
so
say
this is a real rarity that we're going to get.
And they say, like, actually, they're more common than lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse, half of the world see when it's happening, but not solar eclipse, like you say. They're more common total solar eclipse, but like you say, we don't get to see it. Just very specific areas from the Earth get to see it.
And then the next one, even around North America, we're talking about that one's in Chicago that you'd see the total solar eclipse. The next one in North America is in August of 2045. Yeah. So even that one, where we're just talking about in North America, that one is still over 20 years away. So
yes, and only the places that we'll be able to see it we'll start in Greenland and we'll go to the Dakotas and Montana. That's in Canada. That will be the only part that they will see it. So this one is going to cover 13 states.
We can drive to Indiana. That's
or Carbondale if you.
Or Carbondale, yeah.
Yeah, you can see. One other question before we end this program is that it is true that one day there will be no more eclipses. Do you know that answer?
Well, eventually, the moon is technically moving farther away, so it's going to appear smaller in our skies. So eventually, what's the year? Or how many years? 600 million, roughly 600 million years from now, we're no longer going to have the total solar eclipses. That's a long way.
We don't know. Yeah, long way to go.
Well, that's it for our Eclipse special. Please join us right back here for our day-long special coverage of the eclipse Monday, April 8th.